All right, we are back here in the fan forum talking about the New York Football Jets. Joining me today to talk about the Jet picks in the draft, Martino Puccio is here. Martino, how are you?
Hey Mike, not too bad. Feels like 2 years in a row the Jets had a at least competent draft. So I was trying to talk with friends about it, and we were kind of just the only 2 years in a row that we could remember is probably the mid 2000s. The last time they had two drafts in a row where you're like, okay, I have no real issues with that. So I'm in good spirits for once, and you know me, that's not really a thing with the Jets.
Yeah, you're usually Mr. Negative with the Jets, so for you to be happy says a lot.
It does, because as you can recall in the Cohen Money chat, I was saying, all right, really depends on who they hire this next go round, and if they are, you know, in the proper chain of command, then I'll stay. I
Yeah.
was I was ready to just be not a freelancing fan of the NFL. I was just gonna be a fantasy football and gambling guy for a while. That's kind of the direction I was headed. But I'm glad they righted the ship and we're good to go.
Yeah, they did. And remember, those 2006, 2007 drafts set the stage for an AFC Championship team, so hopefully we're so lucky this time.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and I think that was the last time they selected two offensive players in the first round as well, with the Mangold and Brick, I believe it
Yep.
was. So really, I'm just really excited and happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we knew going into this draft that, okay, they're going to take Zach Wilson. This is something that we've known since about like mid-March that this was going to happen. But what they did next was they made it clear that their plan was to help the quarterback out. They trade up for Vera Tucker. They take Elijah Moore. They take Michael Carter, the next three picks. I think Joe Douglas made it clear, I'm not doing what happened to Sam Darnold. Zach Wilson got every chance to succeed. I think I love that.
I love that too. And the best part is the aggressiveness of it from Joe Douglas, because I believe it was Damian Woody that made this point on Twitter, is that, okay, you have a lot of draft capital. It's great that you could build up and get guys to help out your young quarterback. But the odds are a lot of these picks aren't going to be making the roster within the next 2 years or so, because that's a lot of roster spots, right? So he was like, okay, why not be aggressive here? Because there's more picks next year. There's two first rounders. You're going to get Seattle's picks in there as well. So you have options again if it doesn't work out this year. So he's very aggressive. And what they said was who they thought was a top 10 player in this draft with Vera Tucker, I believe. So, I mean, just to get that and pair it up with a player in Mekhi Becton, who I think has all pro potential. And I don't even care if that sounds biased. I thought he was a pro bowler last year. He just played for the Jets. So that's why he wasn't in there. Again, the wide receiver for a second straight year in the second round. I don't really care if we have our second round curse or whatever that is, but it gives us that depth with the wide receiving corps that we still haven't had in a while. And I know the Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker team was the top heavy core, but this one is just very well balanced. It's young. The oldest wide receiver in it is Jameson Crowder, and he's not really ancient. And we'll see how long he sticks around, anyways, because that move kind of could have changed that up. And then again, Michael Carter, I love getting a running back, that's not in this. If he's in the second round, he has to be like almost at a Pro Bowl level in year one. But besides that, like, you could always find someone that's very useful in those later rounds, in round four. And everyone by their judgment was saying, hey, this is the running back steal of the draft. This was the team that got the best value at running back more than anyone else. So again, that, like, what can you say too? Because, like, the offense can't get any worse. That is quite literally the worst offense in Jets history. And it was probably one of the worst 10 offenses in NFL history. And if we be even more exaggerating, we could say bottom five in NFL history. So they can't get much worse. They get that much more talent and value in there. And they have more to do next year. I'm just very happy overall with the general approach. And not only is it the first time that the Jets help a quarterback out immediately in the draft while getting their quarterback, they also did the other things that they needed for their quarterback with the coaching staff. And then even the defense, if we're going to talk about that after. I think there's just really important things that they did there, in my opinion, that, use your coach that's so great at coaching defense to coach those guys up. Get the real talent guys on offense and let them flourish, because we know Saleh can coach up a lot of these guys, because we saw what happened last year in San Francisco. So, again, I don't know. It feels very weird for me and I'm sure it feels weird for you too, that they were competent again. And you just like, you have nothing bad to say about what they did. And it's just a tradition to have something bad to say.
Yeah, and you talk about the top of the podcast here. I mean, it's so weird because for once it feels like they have a front office that actually understands how the league is going and how to operate in the league because they know this is an offensive league. They took offensive talent. They have a defensive coach. They use, as you said, a bunch of those late round picks on flyer defensive guys with like elite physical traits that you can coach up. And Robert Saleh expected to coach those guys up. And I think a lot of these guys, you look at them, they have some interesting like physical attributes, whether it's speed, strength, whatever, and you can expect them to play roles because Saleh will find the right fit for them.
No, exactly. And that's exactly kind of what they were doing last year too. Ashton Davis, as much football as he hasn't played in his career, and he's still kind of figuring it out at his age, and he's not that young, but still, that was a speed pick. He was a track star. Same thing with these other guys too. And again, even David Gettleman was on discussing this with ESPN. He's like, speed kills. If you're not speed, then you got to be the biggest team around. And not only are they kind of doing that with the offensive line, just the speed in general that they're going to be having. And they did this last year too with Bryce Hall was one of those picks, as you know, was, okay, the kid's really talented. He's got some high upside. He's coming off an injury. This is worth a risk. And it's not even that much of a risk because you're kind of putting in, they're lottery tickets at this point. I'm always the believer of that, hey, like if you're going to put in a bunch of these picks, a lot of them aren't going to turn out. They don't really last that long in the NFL. If they last more than 2 to 3 years, then it's a home run, in my opinion, especially when you get to the 6th round or later. So again, and then even if you want to talk about the undrafted free agent that they signed, the name is slipping me at the moment, but they give out the largest undrafted free agent guaranteed money with 180 grand. So again, like it's Joe Douglas doing his due diligence. And it's beautiful when you see Howie Roseman and the Eagles war room, when you see Howie go up to their senior scout to go give him a fist bump for moving up for Devonta Smith, and they're just not on the same board and happy about the decision being made. And there were a bunch of replies saying, ever since Joe Douglas left, this is how it's been. And that makes you feel good because of it also shows how well other teams do or how great someone is at their job when they leave their other place, right? Because we talk about that with LeBron all the time, like how his teams suck after he leaves. Look at the Ravens, look at the Bears, and look at the Eagles. A lot of people have been saying they haven't been doing a great job of drafting, even though the Ravens have been historically known to be good drafting teams. They're struggling, and it's the Jets who have turned it around. So it really says a lot about Joe Douglas as a draft evaluator. And again, it's awesome. It really is because it makes the draft exciting once more. And I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, suffice to say, I think giving this draft an
A. See, here's the funny thing. With draft grades, I totally understand how people go with grades because you kind of go off of like, okay, they addressed need, they got talent, they weren't overly aggressive, they weren't, lazy with their approach to things or overreaching for players, kind of like the Jaguars were hit or miss, right? They got the young quarterback, but Etienne is still kind of a little bit of a reach in the first round. But again, I don't know. I go with B because it's still a total crapshoot in the NFL. Okay, I could go B+, but A is just funny to me because you never truly know at the end of the day. And Zach Wilson doesn't have that much of a track record. But again, if someone believes in their guy, you're going to have to go with it. And I also probably am not as hyped up about Zach Wilson. You know what's really sad, and don't hold this against me, I was actually more hyped up for Geno Smith getting drafted to the Jets than I was Zach Wilson. Only because I love Geno at West Virginia, and I was very ignorant when I was in high school about this kind of stuff. But it probably does have to do with knowing Zach was the pick for months. So, I mean, yeah, listen, B+, if you want to give it an A, I'm not really going to argue, but it's just the NFL draft is weird. So, yeah.
It is weird. I give it an A for the approach also. They understand how to build this team right now. It seems like they understand the concept of value in the draft and reading the board correctly. That's something I give them a bonus points for.
Absolutely. And that's true because, again, people were like, okay, the obvious is going to happen here at the top of the second round with the Jets. They're going to trade back. They're going to try and get more value and try and help build around. But then I love the approach of saying, okay, we did that last year. We don't necessarily have to. If we love a wide receiver like Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder's getting up there in age, we could potentially cut him, use some of that money to sign a cornerback if it's still possible. I know you mentioned Richard Sherman a while back, but again, people that I know that kind of know his agents and others were saying he still wants to go to a Super Bowl contender, but it still leaves that option open for you. But again, my point was the aggressiveness at the top of that round saying, okay, let's just pick the best player here. Because if you hit this pick and he does great in this system with Zach Wilson, that's going to do wonders for you. And, waiting towards the back end of the second round or early third round, if you were to trade back, doesn't give you that option. With the option of staying there, and getting a player like that, it's great because he totally understood. Again, we knew heading into this one, this was another really good wide receiver draft, just like last year. You don't have to use your first round pick on that. You could use it on the boys up front in the trenches. And obviously they had to use it on a quarterback because of that situation. Like you just get value. And again, I know some people wanted to go with Deebo Samuel comp, even though Deebo Samuel is one of my favorite players, not on the Jets in the NFL. Again, it's a player after the catch. And just to think like how talented Denzel Mims was and how well he was doing in an Adam Gase offense or showing enough flashes, you can only imagine what some of these guys are going to do together in a LaFleur offense that's based off of what Shanahan does in San Francisco.
Yeah, absolutely, Martina. Thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, how can people follow on social media? Keep on some of the stuff you're up to.
Yeah, you could just follow me at Martino Puccio on social media. I write for The Athletic. There's some stuff for soccer betting. Maybe if you're into the Euros over the summer, some U.S. Gold Cup stuff as well, if you might be interested in that. And just other soccer podcasts. And just follow me for Mets tweets if you want to. I am not on board with firing Donnie Stevenson just yet, but everyone else can leave, in my opinion. But that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, Donnie Stevenson's our hero. Martino, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.